What's up, everybody? This is Alex once again with another episode of the EOT Newsflash, and I'm so excited. We are on episode 99, one away from 100. It's been years, literal years in the making, and we're almost there. And next week's gonna be super exciting. We have the reveal of War of the Spark previews. We're gonna see all kinds of crazy new planeswalkers, all 36 in the set, and all kinds of other shenanigans going on in that set. But first, there's a lot to talk about tonight, so let's get right into it. So tonight we're talking about, hold on. One second. Be right back. Hello, this is Alex.
Hey, Alex, it's Alex.
Oh, hey Alex, how's it going? Aren't you recording tonight?
Yeah, recording right now, actually. But there's no show notes. It's really weird. Didn't you prepare anything?
No.
Why not?
Well, nothing happened.
What? No product reveals? No thought-provoking article? Not even a misguided tweet?
No.
Well, what are we supposed to do for the show now?
I don't know. Emergency topic toolbox?
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Be right back. Damn it. It's empty.
Shocking.
Let me look one more time. Yeah, looks like a commander deck list, I think.
Well, what good is that gonna do us? It's probably just a list of board wipes and counter spells.
Well, yeah, but we have been wanting to do that commander episode for a really long time.
With no prep or notes. Won't that be kind of hard?
Nah, super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
Well, this is surely going to be the greatest episode
In the world.
Right. Well, fortune does favor the bold, and what's the worst that can happen?
You worry too much, man. And by the way, where are you right now?
At the table. Why?
I'm in the kitchen. I can't see you.
Well, of course you can't see me. I'm a projection of your inner monologue used as a framing device to pad out the runtime of the episode.
What?
Man, that guy's weird. Well, you heard the man. Fortune does favor the bold. And here we are, episode 99. We're talking about Commander. This is our first episode where we're actually going to talk about nothing but Commander. And I'm super excited about this because I've been playing a ton of Commander recently. At my local game store, the Commander players outnumber every other Magic player in the store by at least 3 to 1 if I had to guess. And people there have upwards of like 10 Commander decks. It's insane. Since Guilds of Ravnica came out, I've built 4 myself of varying power levels. You know, I've just gotten so deep into the format again after being away from it for years. I used to have a bunch of decks that were just kind of haphazardly thrown together out of just, whatever I could find. Never really played them, sold off all that bulk stuff. And then, I've just gotten back into it. I found a love for wacky, multiplayer Commander decks. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, just kind of like what is the format, how do you get into the format, and then some of the resources that are out there for you to hone your Commander skills. Now, obviously, there's a ton of Commander content out there, and, and I realize that, so it's not like I'm reinventing the wheel here or anything, but I want to take this from a perspective of a new Commander player. Let's say that you're a standard player and you kind of want to break out, you've gotten tired of drafting all the time, and you have a decent collection of a bunch of cards that don't really have a home in a standard or modern deck. Well, what do you do with those cards? Well, I'll tell you what you do with them. You slap them into a Commander deck. So let's dig into a little bit. What exactly is Commander from a new perspective, from a player of a perspective of a new player? Well, simply, it's a different Magic format altogether. There's nothing quite like it out there. It's all about building your deck around a single legendary creature, having 100 cards, and just playing a free-for-all game where literally the sky is the limit. Creativity is your biggest weapon. How wacky can your deck get? What kind of cool combos can you pull off? How fast can you kill your opponent? What can you do in the format? The answer is literally anything. So let's dig a little bit into the most obvious thing. What goes into a commander deck? I'm going to throw up a little infographic here that I found on the official Magic websites. It's amazing what you can actually find on some sites sometimes. So essentially, your commander deck is 100 cards. It seems really, really daunting. One of them being your commander. And we'll get to that here in a minute, what that commander actually is going to dictate in terms of what you can and cannot play in your deck. The other 99 cards must be individual copies. You're not going to have multiples like you would in a standard or a modern deck. These are singleton cards here. The only exception are obviously basic lands, and there are a couple of cards that sort of break that rule. Relentless Rats and Persistent Petitioners come to mind, but they're the exceptions to the rule. And I would say probably 99% of the commander decks that you're going to build or play against will adhere to the singleton rule. And that's the basic stuff. But let's move on to the commander itself, sort of the core of your deck. The commander is really going to dictate what your deck is going to do. And I want to take a look at a couple of commanders here and kind of give you an example, show off a little bit what we're talking about here when it comes to commander, just how commanders themselves and how complex or non-complex they can be. So the first one I pulled up here, this is Rishkar Pima Renegade, all the way from Aether Revolt. It's 2 and a green for a 2/2 elf druid at rare, legendary creature. Enters battlefield, put some counters on creatures, and you can tap those creatures with +1/+1 counters on them to add mana to your mana pool. Very, very simple. And Rishkar is a great example of a mono-colored commander. Now, what do I mean by mono-colored commander? There's only one color in him. He's a green creature, and that's it. So by building a deck around Rishkar, you can only include green cards in your deck. So that's 99 other cards. You can only have mana that, well, the mana's rules are a little bit different now. You can now generate mana outside of your commander's color, but that's a little bit weird, so we won't really worry about that right now. But essentially, you're playing a deck with a bunch of forests, a bunch of green creatures, a bunch of green spells, and that's your deck. Mono-colored commander, very, very simple, very elegant, and typically has, like a very focused core game plan. But there are definitely other more sort of out there commanders. And I want to take a look at another one here. Look at Brea Ethereum Shaper. White, blue, black, red. All colors but green go into Brea Ethereum Shaper here. Legendary artifact creature, 4/4. Enters a battlefield. Make some Thopters. You can pay 2, sacrifice 2 artifacts, and have an effect off of Brea. Brea is stupidly powerful and one of the most broken commanders they've printed in a very long time. Now, unlike Rishkar, Brea has 4 colors in her color identity. That's a word you'd be hearing a lot when you talk about commanders. Color identity is what's going to dictate what goes into your deck. Like Rishkar's mono green, Brea is all 4 colors minus green. So in your deck, you can have white cards, blue cards, black cards, and red cards. Pretty simple, but where things get to be a little bit more hectic is actually building your mana base. 4-color mana bases, not easy. There are a lot of really great videos out there. I definitely recommend checking out Solarian Community College. The professor does some really great videos on building commander mana bases of all varieties, from monocolored to even 5 colors. So really cool stuff here. Just another example, and personally one of my favorite commanders. And there is one more kind of commander that can be a little bit confusing, and one that you might have to take a look at to really understand what's going on here. So I'm going to give you guys a minute to take a look at Tasigur, the Golden Fang. And just take a minute and tell me, what color identity is Tasigur here? Yeah, you would say mono black probably, but he's not. Tasigur is actually Sultai colored, black, blue, and green. And that's thanks to his activated ability. So in the text on the card, that's where color identity can bleed out beyond just the casting cost. So because Tasigur has an activated ability that costs 2 hybrid blue-green, that makes him a Sultai colored commander, which means you can put all kinds of wacky value, graveyard shenanigans, your Snapcaster Mages, your Eternal Witnesses, all kinds of graveyard shenanigans, Dredge, Flashback, Unearth. Tasigur is a massively powerful commander, can do a lot of really cool things here, and definitely a really interesting commander because at first glance, some players might just say, well, he's only one color, so definitely something to take a look at there. Other examples of commanders like this might be General Tazri, who is a mono-white ally commander, but because she has an activated ability of white, blue, black, red, green in her text, that makes her a 5-color commander. Same with Joda, Archmage Eternal. Because he has those 5 colors in his text box beyond just his Jeskai casting cost, that makes him a 5-color commander. So that's definitely something you want to think about when you're building a commander. How many colors do you want to include? How crazy do you want to get? By playing more colors, it opens up your ability to play more different kinds of effects. So that's going to really dictate where you're going to build how you're going to build your commander deck and what your deck is actually going to be capable of doing. So let's move on to the next topic. We're going to talk about the games themselves. Here are some holding moments. Here are some holding moments. And ready. All right. So let's talk about a commander game itself. Typically, these are played with 2 to 6 players, but I've seen games go as big as 12, and frankly, those are a terrible idea. Nobody wins those games. No matter who ends up last one standing, nobody wins. It's a free-for-all multiplayer format. You're not really have to worry about, holding yourself to any kind of, alliance. Well, we'll get to that. But there really is nothing dictating on who you can or can't attack. If you want to attack the opponent to your left, that's fine. You want to kill their planeswalker? That's fine. You want to kill her creature? Also fine. Do whatever you want to in Commander, and some decks even thrive on that chaos and unpredictability that goes into building and playing a Commander deck. You start with 40 life because, when you have a deck of 100 cards, there's a lot to get through, and having 20 life would be a pretty limiting factor. So 40 life is definitely a great place to start, and as you start to play games of Commander, you'll really start to realize that life total, much like it is in Standard or Limited or Modern, that life total is a resource, and you'll see some players just go crazy with paying lives to pull off really massive effects, and you start to realize that 40 life total, that's a gift right there. Next, we have to talk about the command zone, which is sort of this nebulous area where things kind of sit that aren't actually in the game, but that are part of the game. Things like, your commander, your planeswalker emblems go here. Your commander specifically reside in this zone, and they start there as the game starts. Now, you can cast them at any time you could cast your commander. If it has flash, obviously you could do it, at flash speed, but typically you're going to be able to cast it from your commander, and that's where we have to talk about the commander tax, because essentially the creature is always in your hand, so to speak. So having the ability to just cast it for its mana cost whenever you want might be a little bit too powerful in some cases, and so the Commander's Rule Committee decided to implement what's called the Commander's Tax. So every time you cast the commander after its first casting, whether it dies, gets exiled, tucked into your library, or anything else that would cause it to leave the battlefield, you have the option of putting it back in the command zone. Obviously, you can put it in the graveyard, and there's some things you can do with that, obviously, depending on your build, but you can put them back in the command zone. And the next time you cast it, you would pay its original casting cost plus 2 generic mana. Every time that you cast it again, it's now plus another 2. So you pay 2, then 4, 6, and so on and so forth. So, some commanders are cheap enough that it really doesn't matter, but some of the more powerful ones, the bigger commanders, really do start to get hurt by that commander tax, and you need to have a way to generate enough mana to constantly cast it, especially if your commander really revolves around a specific, your commander especially, and needs it to power up the deck. Beyond that, there's also commander damage. Now, this is a bit of a contentious rule, and I've read a lot online over on Reddit and different areas where people are not super high on commander damage. And essentially what that is 21 damage from a commander is lethal damage. And that's something you definitely want to keep in mind as you have some of these bigger commanders taking swings at you. Can be, definitely a thing to worry about. Obviously some decks don't have to worry about it, but some decks are specifically designed to take advantage of that 21 damage, kind of like Infect is in a regular game where it's only 10 points of Infect. Well, this is similar to that as well. Infect also 10 poison counters in the game's over, which is, it is what it is. There aren't a lot of Infect commanders out there, but the ones that can pull it off quickly, definitely scary. And essentially, that's it. The game is the last person standing is the winner. The one thing I do want to highlight on, though, is that there's this element of a social contract when you sit down and play Commander. It's very much a casual format, and while there are those people out there who want to kill you on turn 2 with Narset, or combo off with Doomsday and Zur the Enchanter, they're special and we appreciate them. But for the most part, people just want to play Commander and play a lot of fun, creative ideas and show off a lot of really cool cards and combos that they have in their deck. And so what you really want to do, and this is something that I've had to learn as I've sat down and played games in my local game store, is that not everybody comes to the table with a powerful commander deck. Sometimes it's just, this is a cool legendary I pulled out of a booster pack. Here's some cards that I have in my collection. I built the deck around that, and here's the deck. And that's where you kind of have to understand what's going on here. So I like to, some of my decks are nowhere near as powerful as some of my others. I definitely have a scale I can slide up and down depending on the table. And so being able to sit down and kind of gauge the table, what are you guys playing? What does your commander do? And ask them, where do you guys see your commander sit, like on a power scale? And if you guys ever listen to the Command Zone, they talk about this scale where it goes from about a 0 to a 10, and everywhere in between. It denotes a different level of power from jank to casual to more focused to refined, and then all the way up to the competitive commander decks, which are truly terrifying, but at the same time, works of art to watch go off. So definitely you want to gauge the table and make sure everybody's somewhere around the same power level, because you don't want to have somebody sitting down with their first commander they've ever built and someone who's going to try to combo off on turn 3. That's just no fun for anybody, and definitely something that you want to talk about with your play group and anytime you sit down to play a commander game. So let's move on to our next topic. We're going to talk about getting into the format. So how do you get into the format? It's a question that I've heard a lot of times, how do I play a commander? Well, the easiest way to do it is just take a commander you've got, a legendary creature out of your collection, and build a deck around it. And you might have success with that. You might not have success with that depending on how new of a player you are, what's in your collection, and just, your experience actually building a commander deck. And really the best way to get into it is to look for the pre-con decks. And I've got a couple of them up on the screen here. These are the most recent ones from last year. This was the second round of the Planeswalker as commander series here. There was a monocolored set before here, and now these are the most recent ones here. And you can find these in pretty much any local game store. Even some big box stores like Target or Walmart have these still on their shelves. But of course, if you're going to buy Magic products, definitely go to your local game store and support them instead. You can't play Magic at Walmart, obviously. And what these are usually priced around the $39.99 MSRP price range, and it's a full commander deck. And there's typically a couple different commanders you can choose. So if you don't like the Planeswalker but prefer a different legendary creature in the deck, you can change them out and use them instead, and the deck is fully functional as is. Now, you're not going to have something super powerful, but out of the box, I've seen some of these decks do some really crazy things, and it's really cool to watch them all play against each other. There's some great YouTube videos I've seen that actually pit them all against each other, and it's really neat to see, just the decks, how well they are tuned to play against each other, and the ability to evolve from there. So these are definitely the best way to go about, getting into the format, especially if you're brand new. And definitely, if you're not interested in these particular commander decks, ask your local game store. I've seen a lot of older decks still sitting on shelves. Some from the 2017, the 2016 products are definitely still out there. If you're lucky and your local game store ordered the commander anthologies and broke them up into the individual decks, you can definitely get those. But it really depends on how much money you want to spend. The original series of commander decks from 2013, when I first started playing commander, way too much money, if we're being honest. I believe the Kalia of the Vast deck, Heavenly Inferno, is sitting somewhere around the $150 range, which is, not a bad amount of money for what's effectively, you're paying about $1.50 per card, but these things were $30 when they first released. So this is a yearly product. We're going to see one coming out this year, so definitely keep an eye out for these, especially if you're looking for a new commander or just want to be able to build up your commander collection. These are a great way to start playing commander, even right out of the box. And as you start to get your some games under your feet, you open some more booster packs, you win some more prizes at your FNMs and your local tournaments. You can start to really pimp these decks out and really kind of bring them into your own, make them your own, essentially, because that's what Commander to me is all about, is putting your identity on a Commander deck. So pay Commander precons, absolutely the best way to go. Pick them up at your local game store. Can't recommend them highly enough. And then from there, just play. I can go down to my local game store any day of the week, it seems like, and someone's there playing Commander. Sit down, shuffle up, and just play. That's the only way to get better at the format. It's the only way to get better at Magic in general, if we're being honest, to just play the games. You're going to sit down and someone's going to throw down a commander you've never seen before, throw down a card you've never seen before, and it might crush you. You might be able to stop it, But that's probably the best part about Commander, is it's going to teach you so many things you've never seen before, so many mechanics, so many creatures, so many interactions. It's a really great way to sort of become a better player in general, because within just standard or modern, you know the interactions there, but when you're getting into the interactions that take place on a Commander table, get out of town. Just absolutely ridiculous what can happen sometimes, and that's what comes with the territory. You got to expect it, but at the same time, your opponents have to expect you to dish it out as well. So let's wrap it up for tonight, guys. Let's talk about where to go from here, and let's talk about Commander resources. So you've bought your first precon, you've played a couple of games, and you're ready to start sort of, improving it, making it better, adding more cards to it, maybe even building your own Commander deck for the first time. Where do you go? It's such a daunting task, and my favorite website for this, and one that I spend probably too much time on, even at work in some cases, especially during lunch, I'm poring over this website just looking for cool ideas. This is edhrec.com, which is literally the end-all, be-all for Commander. And, obviously they have all of their articles here. They've got video content. They've got, stuff from across YouTube, all different kinds of content here, from gameplays to deck tech. It's insane. But where EDHREC truly, and I mean truly, steps above any other resource you can find on Commander, it's its database. And I tell you, this is... Let me just show you. So let's look at one of my commanders. One of my commanders is a Zoni, Thousand Eyes. Cool commander, Guilds of Ravnica. I love this deck to death. It's an aristocrat style deck, super cool. Might see a deck tech soon. Be on the lookout for that. But let's take a look at this. So we already have data here. We've got 196 decks to look at. The average type distribution is going to show us which ones are lands, creatures, instant sorceries. We're already getting a breakdown, but it's going to take it even further than that. And if you spent any time on the EDH subreddit, you will know this website well, but if you haven't seen this already, holy cow. First step, looking at recent articles, people who have written about this commander, and they're going to go into detail about their deck. From there, recent decks are going to show up here. You can start looking at people's decks that they've built, see the price ranges, see the themes, and you can open up those pages to look at some of the cards people have put in there. But it's even more insane than that. We can look at cards themselves, and this is where the data truly boggles my mind. I don't know how they did this, where they got this information, but bless them, because this is one of the, like I said, this is the end-all be-all for resources when it comes to Commander. So you're immediately going to start looking at new cards. What's been printed recently that goes in a Zoni Commander deck? Boom, Priest of Forgotten Gods. It's going to show you a price. You can even go buy this thing immediately from cardkingdom.com if you wanted to. It's going to show you that it shows up in 67% of decks and adds a certain amount of synergy. Pretty cool stuff here, so you know if you're adding a card, whether or not it's going to be impactful in your Commander deck. From there, we go to signature cards, where we start seeing all the things that you'd want to play in your particular deck. So we see Stinkweed Imp, Satyr Wayfinder, Blood Artist, all cards that make a Zoni deck even more powerful. And it just goes and goes. And we get to the top cards, and these are cards that must be played in your deck because they add so much more power. And it goes and goes and goes into the creatures, and I'm losing my mind because this website is insane. Bless you, EDHREC. Bless you. I don't know who created you, but whoever you are out there, bless you. This is an amazing tool. And if you want to get an idea for a deck, if you're looking for a card to put into a deck, you can't go wrong here. EDHREC deck is one of my favorite websites for Commander decks to build with, and I cannot overstate its value enough. But let's say you've combed over everything, but you want to go beyond the construction of the deck. Let's say you want to learn more about the politics, the strategy, the actual gameplay. Well, that's where we turn to my next favorite website for Commander, and it's really more of a podcast actually, and one that I actually turn to YouTube more often than anything. It's the Command Zone. And if you haven't listened to these guys, this is Jimmy Wong and Josh Lee Kwai. They've been doing this for 260 episodes now. Hats off to them. And they talk about everything, whether it's gameplay, strategy, table politics, how to budgetize your builds, how to improve your builds, take your deck to the next level, ways to bling out your deck, how to build your mana bases. Literally there's so much stuff here to listen to, and their recent videos have been video format as well, so you can watch them as well. It's my favorite thing to do in the morning, getting ready to go to work. I love watching their videos, and I always learn something different. You know, I might be listening to the episode for the second or third time, but I'll pick up on something and I'll go, oh, that's really interesting. I should have thought about that the next time I play Commander. And I can't, like EDH Trick, I cannot overstate the value that the Command Zone brings to my Commander games and hopefully yours as well. And the last place I want to highlight, and I won't go to just because of what might possibly pop up when researching, that's YouTube. You know, a lot of this stuff is found on YouTube, and if you type in EDH, you'll see thousands of hours of content, probably this one as well, on Commander, budget brews, you know, gameplay videos, everything. One of the ones I've discovered recently is Commander Quarters, and the guy over there, he takes commanders and builds $25 decks around them. You know, sometimes he excludes the cost of the commander because there are some costly commanders out there that if you added that to the cost of your deck, it would completely invalidate building the deck as an exercise. But $25, like. That's where my Azoni deck started, a $25 budget deck, and obviously it's been pimped out a little bit more since then, but it started out as a $25 commander deck, and now it's one of my favorite decks I've ever played in my life. That's where it started out, just $25, and you can play this awesome format. And you might be thinking, oh, Alex, if I don't have a lot of money, I can't buy all the cool cards. Shut up, you're wrong. There are so many bonkers, completely unreasonable Magic cards out there that cost pennies, and I guarantee you take a list much like this. This is the deck list I wrote up for my. You guys obviously can't see that, but it's here. This is my Chromium deck list, and I took this to my local game store. I went online and I looked for, do you guys have these cards, and I was able to put together the deck list very easily and very cheaply. You'd be surprised at what you can build just from your own collection right now. So it's a fun deck building exercise. It's a fun way to play Magic, and the Command Zone's a great way to learn about that. EDH Trick's going to take your build your database, that mental database of cards, just like to ungodly proportions. And all the content on YouTube you can find, even amongst your own play group, you're gonna find resources out there. Don't take these as ipso facto here. You're gonna find the resources that are out there to build better decks, play better commander games, and just have the absolute best time with the format. So I'm gonna leave it at that, guys. This is obviously a little bit off the cuff. I pulled up just a couple of things here, prior to putting this episode together. So I hope you've enjoyed this deep, this relatively shallow dive into Commander. I definitely want to start talking a little bit more about Commander. I mentioned I've got a couple decks now. I want to do some deck techs on those and show off what I've built. So if you guys are interested in, doing some deck, seeing those, let me know down in the comments. Let me know who's your favorite commander. Give me a commander. I might not build it in paper, but I'll build a deck and I'll talk about it on the show here as like a one-off side episode. I think that'd be a lot of fun as an exercise to go through, and I'll try not to cheat, and use EDH Rec too much. Make it challenging for me, guys. I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, next week, episode 100, episode 100 is here. War of the Spark spoilers start next Monday. Wait, no, they actually start this Friday at PAX, because we also have the Mythic Championship going on this weekend. We're gonna sneak preview there. We're gonna see our first trailer for War of the Spark, and then Monday spoilers start proper, because in just a few short weeks, Avengers Endgame comes. The War of the Spark pre-release happens, but also Avengers Endgame comes out. So that's gonna be a busy weekend for me. That's beside the point. So yeah, get ready, guys. A War of the Spark is upon us. I cannot wait. So many planeswalkers, so many legendary creatures for you guys to build around. Super psyched. So thanks so much for listening, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe down in the comments, all that good stuff. Check us out on Facebook, all the good stuff, social media, whatever you have. Check it out. And we will see you guys next week for episode 100. Thanks for watching, guys.